Hello, Grayson friends. It's Mrs. Werman, and I'm back with stories for you today. Today's stories are going to come from a collection called Just So Stories by Rudyard Kipling. They were written in about 1902, and they're stories about how all the different animals got to be the way they are. And the first one I'm going to share with you is one of the most famous. It's called How the Camel Got His Hump. Now, this is the next tale, and it tells how the camel got his big hump. In the beginning of years, when the world was so new and all, and the animals were just beginning to work for man, there was a camel, and he lived in the middle of a howling desert because he did not want to work, and besides, he was a howler himself. So he ate sticks and thorns and tamarisks and milkweed and prickles, most excruciating idle, and when anybody spoke to him, he said, "Humph," just humph, and no more. I need to stop for a second and tell you, most excruciating idle, he says over and over again in this story. It means excruciatingly idle, and idle means kind of like laying around and being lazy and not doing anything, okay? Most excruciating idle. Here we go. Presently, the horse came to him on Monday morning with a saddle on his back and a bit in his mouth and said, "Camel, oh camel, come out and trot like the rest of us." "Humph," said the camel, and the horse went away and told the man. Presently, the dog came to him with a stick in his mouth and said, "Camel, oh camel, come and fetch and carry like the rest of us." "Humph," said the camel, and the dog went away and told the man. Presently, the ox came to him with the yoke on his neck and said, "Camel, oh camel, come and plow like the rest of us." "Humph," said the camel, and the ox went away and told the man. At the end of the day, the man called the horse and the dog and the ox together and said, "Three, oh three, I'm so very sorry for you, with the world so new and all, that hump thing in the desert can't work, or he would have been here by now. So I'm going to leave him alone, and you must work double time to make up for it." That made the three very angry with the world so new and all, and they held a palaver and an indaba and a punchayat and a powwow on the edge of the desert. And the camel came, chewing milkweed, most excruciating idle, and laughed at them. Then he said, "Humph," and went away again. Presently, there came along the djinn in charge of all deserts, rolling in a cloud of dust. Jinns always travel that way because it is magic. And he stopped to palaver and powwow with the three. "Djinn of all deserts," said the horse, "is it right for anyone to be idle with the world so new and all?" "Certainly not," said the djinn. "Well," said the horse, "there's a thing in the middle of your howling desert, and he's a howler himself, with a long neck and long legs, and he hasn't done a stroke of work since Monday morning. He won't trot." "Whew," said the djinn, whistling. "That's my camel for all the gold in Arabia. What does he say about it?" "He says humph," said the dog, "and he won't fetch and carry." "Does he say anything else?" "Only humph, and he won't plow," said the ox. "Very good," said the djinn. "I'll humph him if you'll kindly wait a minute." The djinn rolled himself up in his dust cloak and took a bearing across the desert and found the camel, most excruciatingly idle, looking at his own reflection in a pool of water. "My long and bubbling friend," said the djinn, "what's this I hear of you doing no work with the world so new and all?" "Humph," said the camel. The djinn sat down with his chin in his hand and began to think a great magic, while the camel looked at his own reflection in the pool of water. "You've given the three extra work ever since Monday morning, all on account of your excruciating idleness," said the djinn, and he went on thinking magics with his chin in his hand. "Humph," said the camel. "I shouldn't say that again if I were you," said the djinn. "You might say it once too often. Bubbles, I want you to work." And the camel said, "Humph," again. But no sooner had he said it than he saw his back that he was so proud of puffing up and puffing up into a great, big, lolloping humph. "Do you see that?" said the djinn. "That's your very own humph that you brought upon your very own self by not working. Today is Thursday, and you've done no work since Monday when the work began. Now you are going to work." "How can I," said the camel, "with this hump on my back?" "That is made o' purpose," said the djinn, "all because you missed those 3 days. You will be able to work now for 3 days without eating because you can live on your humph. And don't you ever say I never did anything for you. Come out of the desert and go to the 3 and behave. Humph yourself." And the camel humphed himself, hump and all, and went away to join the 3. And from that day to this, the camel always wears a humph. We call it a hump now, so as not to hurt his feelings. But he has never yet caught up with the 3 days that he missed at the beginning of the world, and he has never yet learned how to behave. I'm going to show you 2 pictures that Rudyard Kipling made himself. He used to draw these silly pictures, and they have very long captions. So I'll show you the picture first. There it is. The caption is, "This is the picture of the jinn making the beginnings of the magic that brought the humph to the camel. First, he drew a line in the air with his finger, and it became solid. And then he made a cloud, and then he made an egg. You can see those at the bottom of the picture. And then there was a magic pumpkin that turned into a big white flame. Then the jinn took his magic fan and fanned that flame until the flame turned into a magic by itself. It was a good magic and a very kind magic, really, though it had to give the camel a humph because the camel was lazy. The jinn in charge of all deserts was one of the nicest of the jinns, so he would never do really anything unkind." Here's one more picture for you. Oops, this way's best. See that? It says, "Here is the picture of the jinn in charge of all deserts, guiding the magic with his magic fan. The camel is eating a twig of acacia, and he has just finished saying humph once too often. Remember, the jinn told him he would. And so the humph is coming. The long towely thing growing out of the thing like an onion is the magic, and you can see the humph on its shoulder. The humph fits onto the flat part of the camel's back. The camel is too busy looking at his own beautiful self in the water to know what is going to happen to him. Underneath the truly picture is a picture of the world so new and all. There are 2 smoky volcanoes in it, some other mountains, and some stones, and a lake, and a black island, and a twisty river, and a lot of other things, as well as Noah's Ark. I couldn't draw all the deserts that the jinn was in charge of, so I only drew one, but it is a most deserty desert." I hope you enjoyed those stories. The fun thing about Just So stories is that they were all written for his daughter Josephine when she was little, and he used to tell them to her at her bedside. The reason they're called Just So stories is that he would try to tell her a story, and she would say, "That's not how you told it last time. You have to tell the story just so," with all the same words every single time. So they became Just So stories, and he wrote them down when she was older, and I hope you enjoyed them. There's a lot more animals to learn about. I think next time we may hear how the leopard got its spots. I'll see you next time. Have a great day. Bye.